because my mic was off. Hare Krishna. All right. I hope all of you are able to get the sound now. So, technical glitch early in the morning hours. No problem. So, welcome all on this wonderful Sunday morning from the 18th floor of this tower. It's all covered by a fog right now. So anyways, we don't have much time to joke around. So we're reading from Bhagavad Gita. We are on the introduction. Please have patience with me. We are going a little slow with this because it's very, very important discussion. So we are reading through every single line. So in my book, I'm on the 14th page. All right. So we can share the screen when you're ready, Agnil Prabhu, okay? With the base. Vedic knowledge is not a question of research. Our research work is imperfect because we are researching things with imperfect senses. We have to accept perfect knowledge which comes down as is stated in Bhagavad Gita by the parampara disciplic succession. We have to receive knowledge from the proper source in disciplic succession, beginning with the Supreme Spiritual Master, the Lord Himself, and handed down to a succession of spiritual masters. Arjuna, the student who took lessons from Lord Shri Krishna, accepts everything that he says without contradicting him, but is not allowed to accept one portion of Bhagavad Gita and not another. No. We must accept Bhagavad Gita without interpretation, without deletion, and without our own whimsical participation in the matter. The Gita should be taken as a most perfect presentation of Vedic knowledge. Vedic knowledge is received from transcendental sources, and the first words were spoken by the Lord Himself. The words spoken by the Lord are called apurusheya, meaning that they're different from the words spoken by a person. Oh, we read this thing, right? Abhi kya bol rahe ho? Pehle bolna tha na? तुम लोग को याद नहीं, mark करा करो अपनी book में. All right. We read this paragraph yesterday. So yes, the next paragraph you have to read it. Vedic knowledge is not imparted by such defective living entities. Which defective living entities? All of us have 4 defects. That was the concluding point in the previous paragraph. It was imparted unto the heart of Brahma, the first created living being, and Brahma in his turn disseminated this knowledge to his sons and disciples. Tene Brahma Hridayadikavve, as he originally received it from the Lord. The Lord is Purnam, all perfect, and there is no possibility of His becoming subjected to the laws of material nature. One should, therefore, be intelligent enough to know that the Lord is the only proprietor of everything in the universe and that He is the original creator, the creator of Brahma. In the 11th chapter, the Lord is addressed as Pitamaha. Brahma is addressed as Pitamaha, the grandfather, and he is the creator of the grandfather. So, no one should claim to be the proprietor of anything. One should accept only things set aside for him by the Lord as his quota for his maintenance. There are many examples given of how we are to utilize those things which are set aside for us by the Lord. This is also explained in Bhagavad Gita. In the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna decided that he should not fight in the battle of Kurukshetra. This was his own decision. Arjuna told the Lord that it was not possible for him to enjoy the kingdom after killing his own kinsmen. This decision was based on the body because he was thinking that the body was himself and that his body relations or expansions were his brothers, nephews, brother-in-law, grandfathers, and so on. Therefore, he wanted to satisfy his bodily demands. Bhagavad Gita was spoken by the Lord just to change this view. And at the end, Arjuna decides to fight under the direction of the Lord. Karishye vachanam tava. I shall act according to your word. So, what's the discussion going on right now? Yesterday we concluded with the discussion on how Vedic knowledge should be accepted as it is. Vedic knowledge is not a subject of research. It's apurusheya. Why? Because Vedic knowledge is given by the Supreme Lord Himself. And today we saw to whom it was given the first? Brahmaji. And Brahmaji, through disciplic succession, he instructed Narad Muni to Vyasadev, and like that, through disciplic succession, this knowledge has come down to us. Of anything and everything, I mean, it's not a time for discussion, but I would give a food for thought. Think about, from where have we got the cooking skills? How did we got the skills to make clothes? Pehle cotton ke clothes bante the. If you ever know or have ever seen how people would make cotton, every household up to 100 years ago would make their own clothes. There were no clothes, there were any shopper's stop or something like that? No. Every day in the morning there was this a tool. On the one hand, they will chant the names of the Lord. On the other hand, they'll keep moving the tool. There was a rod like this small, like playtime. And with that, the whole cotton will get created. Cotton fibers will get created, and then they'll give it to somebody to stitch. And many times, even if you remember in your childhood, your mother used to stitch a woolen sweater for all of us. So all of this thing was done at the home. I'm just saying, where did the skill started? Growing the crops. How to extract the crop, everything. That all is coming from the scriptures. Modern science, then we became Homo sapiens, then we become humans, and gradually we evolved. We have only evolved in destroying ourselves, not constructing anything. Point to be noted, all right? So now Prabhupada gave a little bit of onset, the beginning of what is happening at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. That was discussed. Arjuna's problem was bodily consciousness. This was the paragraph that we read. Now, let's continue. In this world, men are not meant for quarreling like cats and dogs. Men must be intelligent to realize the importance of human life and refuse to act like ordinary animals. Have you seen dogs barking at each other? The moment another dog comes into that area, he begins to bark. You open a piece of newspaper, you find, human dogs fighting with each other. Not humans keeping a dog. I'm talking about humans, dogs. The dogs in the guise of a human being. What kind of brutal murder, torture, everything happens these days. And this is how you see the dogs, biting at each other. That's what Prabhupada is saying. Man must be intelligent. Human being should realize the aim of his life. This direction is given in all Vedic literatures, and the essence is given in Bhagavad Gita. A lady traveled 3,000 kilometers from Mexico to Peru, to whom she had fallen in love through online dating. And after a week, her skeleton was found floating in the ocean beach of that Peru with missing bodily parts. So her boyfriend had actually killed her and stolen her bodily parts and sold off. I just got the message yesterday about this story. So I was just wondering, if she would have fallen in love with Krishna, if she would have got Krishna consciousness, where would she be and where she ended to be? That's not to be. I mean, she sent a message to her nephew, "Oh, I finally found a love of my life. I'm going to visit him in Peru, etc., etc." And this is the gati. This is the destination of the unfortunate situation happened. We should not waste a human form of life for all these temporary things. That's the point Prabhupada is making. Animals can kill other living animals. That's what happens. Human beings, not for animals can kill. Prior to that, Vedic literature is meant for human beings, not for animals. Animals can kill other living animals, and there's no question of sin on their part. But if a man kills an animal for the satisfaction of his uncontrolled taste, he must be responsible for breaking the laws of nature. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is clearly explained that there are three kinds of activities according to the different modes of natures: goodness, passion, ignorance. Similarly, there are three kinds of eatables also, in goodness, passion, ignorance. All of this is clearly described. And if we properly utilize the instructions of Bhagavad Gita, then our whole life will become purified. And ultimately, we'll be able to reach the destination which is beyond the material sky. Yad gatva anivattanti tadama paramam mama. So, Prabhupada is making a point about human form of life is very rare and should not be wasted like cats and dogs. Next paragraph. That destination is called Sanatana, the eternal spiritual sky. In this material world, we find that everything is temporary. It comes into being, stays for some time, produces some byproducts, dwindles, and then vanishes. That is the law of the material world. Whether we use as an example this body or a piece of fruit or anything, but beyond this temporary world, there is another world of which we have information. That world consists of another nature, which is called Sanatana. Science calls it antimatter. You can look into research papers about it. The Jiva is also described as Sanatana, and the Lord is also described as Sanatana. We have an intimate relationship with the Lord, and because we are all qualitatively one, the Sanatan Dharma, the Sanatan Dham, or sky, the Sanatan Supreme Personality, and the Sanatan living entities. The whole purpose of Bhagavad Gita is to revive our Sanatan occupation, or Sanatan Dharma, which is the eternal occupation of the living entity. We are temporarily engaged in different activities, but all of these activities can be purified when we give up all these temporary activities and take up the activities which are prescribed by the Supreme Lord, that is called our pure life. So Srila Prabhupada is introducing our spiritual world here, which is Sanatana, eternal, where eternal Lord lives with his eternal associates for eternity. And we also have an opportunity to become his eternal Parshad and to live for eternity. If we choose to live a pure life and give up the lives of hogs and dogs, which means Ahar Nidra Bhaya Mathunam, and live a pure life, which is described in Bhagavad Gita like following 4 regulatory principles: no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, no illicit sex. And that is the part we need to give up. But the part which we need to accept in our life is the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. That's the essence of it. Okay, the Sanatan discussion continues. The Lord and abode Sanatan, and also the living entities. The combined association of the Lord and living entities in the Sanatan abode is the perfection of human life. The Lord is very kind to the entities because they are his sons. Lord declares in Bhagavad Gita, Aham bija pratapita. Of course, there are all types of living entities according to the various karmas, but here the Lord claims that he is the father of all of them. Therefore, the Lord descends to reclaim all of these fallen conditioned souls, to call them back to the Sanatan eternal sky, so that the Sanatan living entities may regain their eternal Sanatan position in eternal association with the Lord. The Lord comes himself in different incarnation, or he sends his confidential servants as sons or his associates or acharyas to reclaim the conditioned souls. So here Prabhupada talks about the Lord's compassion. First of all, our relationship with the Lord, we are his part and parcel, his sons, and then his compassion to us, that where he descends time and again, or else he sends his Parshad to reclaim, to invite us back, to set us free from this prison house. Therefore, Sanatan Dharma does not refer to any sectarian process of religion. It is not about Hinduism, Christianity, Muslim, Islam, etc., etc. It is about the religion of every living entity. It is the eternal function of every living entity in relation with the Lord. Sanatana Dharma refers, as stated previously, to the eternal occupation of living entities. Sripada Ramanujacharya explained the word Sanatana as that which has neither beginning nor end. So when we speak of Sanatana Dharma, we must take it for granted on the authority of Sripada Ramanujacharya that it has neither beginning nor end. Now Prabhupada talks about the word dharma, Sanatana Dharma. So Sanatana has been discussed in the last 3 paragraphs. Now what is the word dharma means? So to describe dharma, Prabhupada will first of all explain its equivalent in English, religion. What does religion means? Next paragraph. The English word religion is a little different from dharma. Religion conveys the idea of faith, and faith may change. Please note down, mark it for yourself. Religion means faith, not exactly an eternal position. One may have faith in a particular process and he may change his faith and adopt another. But Sanatana Dharma refers to that activity which cannot be changed. For instance, liquidity cannot be taken from water, nor can heat be taken from fire. Similarly, the eternal function of the eternal living entities cannot be taken from the living entity. So what is the Sanatana Dharma of fire? Heat. Sanatana Dharma of water? Liquidity. That's the point. Sanatana Dharma is eternally integrated with the living entity. When we speak of Sanatana Dharma, we must take it for granted on the authority of Sripada Ramanujacharya that it has neither beginning nor end. That which has neither end nor beginning must not be sectarian, for it cannot be limited by any boundaries. Those belonging to some sectarian faith will wrongly consider that Sanatana Dharma is also sectarian. But if you go deeply into the matter and consider it in the light of modern science, it is possible for us to see that Sanatana Dharma is the business of all the people of the world, nay, of all the living entities of the universe. What is non-Sanatan dharmas? That's the next paragraph. And what is Sanatan Dharma means to us? So liquidity is the dharma for water. Heat is the dharma for fire. So what is my Sanatan Dharma? These are the 2 discussions will happen in the 2 consequent paragraphs. Non-Sanatan religious faith may have some beginning in the annals of human history, which means at one point in time it started. For example, Christianity 2,000 years old, Islam is 1,600 years old, Buddhism is some 2,500 years old. You got it? So it has a time period which are non-Sanatan, which cannot be eternal. That's the reason they have a time frame. That's what Prabhupada is saying. Because, but there is no beginning to the history of Sanatana Dharma. When did Sanatana Dharma started? Somebody asked. But there is no beginning. It's like somebody asked, when did you appear? There is no beginning. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita chapter 20th verse. Insofar as the living entities are concerned, the authoritative Shastra state, living entity has neither birth nor death. That's the point. In Gita it is stated, living entity is neither born nor dies, is eternal, indestructible, continues to live after the destruction of its temporary metal body. In reference to the concept of Sanatana Dharma, we must try to understand the concept of religion from the Sanskrit root meaning of the word dharma. Dharma refers to that which is constantly existing with a particular object. That is the meaning of a dharma. This is the meaning actually, which stays with an object forever. We conclude that there is heat and light along with fire. Without heat and light, there is no meaning to the word fire. That's the point. So what is the dharma for fire? Heat and light. So now, what is the dharma of us? Next paragraph. When Sanatana Goswami asked Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the swarupa of every living being, the Lord replied that the swarupa, or the constitutional position of the living being, is to render service to the Supreme Personality Godhead. You can take a pause for a second or two or think about it. Every living entity in this world is rendering service. And there is a scientific term which is called a symbiotic relationship, where every living entity depends on other living entity, which means even by living and by dying, I am serving others. By living, I am providing carbon dioxide for the plants and trees, so I am serving them. Although you're not serving consciously, thank God. Otherwise, we would have stopped our carbon dioxide supply also. We would have put a tax onto it. You have to pay money. So thank God we are not doing consciously. And second thing, after dying, our body becomes a food for the living entities. So I'm just saying, unconsciously we are doing so much service. And what to speak of, our waste material becomes a food supply for many others. So many things like that. Within our body, so many viruses and bacteria survive. This is all unconsciously happening. And think about, consciously that we do. We're serving the society, so many things. Everyone is serving somebody. Mother, father serving the child, father is serving the mother, like that. That's the point here. All right? That is what is being described in this whole paragraph, like this. So, I'll not read the whole paragraph, but that's the gist of it. If we analyze the statement of Lord Chaitanya, we can easily see that every living being is constantly engaged in rendering service to another living being. That's the point Prabhupada explains. If we go down, Prabhupada gives a modern example. Under these circumstances, we can see that one friend serves another friend. The mother serves the son, wife serves. If we go on searching the spirit, it will be seen that there is no exception in the society of living beings to the activity of service. The politician presents his manifesto for the public to convince them of his capacity to serve. The voters therefore give the politician their valuable votes, thinking that he will render valuable service to society. Shopkeeper serves the customer. The artist serves the artisan serves the capitalist. The capitalist serves the family. Like that, everyone is serving each other. Next paragraph. Yet, man professes to belong to a particular type of faith with reference to particular time and circumstance. Thus claims to be a Hindu, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, or an adherent of any other sect. Now, with this little discussion, now do you recognize that you do not belong to any of this sect? This is a misnomer, because it started in a particular time frame, and I was born within that time frame when this religion was existing, so I was termed as I belong to so-and-so religion. But the actual religion that I belong to, my dharma is to serve. That is called as Sanatana Dharma. That is the point Prabhupada says. A Hindu may change his faith to become Muslim, Muslim may become Hindu, Christian, etc., etc. The Hindu, Muslim, or Christian, in all circumstances, is a servant of someone. Thus, to profess a particular type of faith is not to profess one's Sanatana Dharma. The rendering of service is Sanatana Dharma. So now question arises, and that is what my Sanatana Dharma is, and that is what binds us together. All of us have the same commonality, or we have the similar commonality, that is to serve. Question arises, whom should we serve? Factually, we are related to the Supreme Lord in service. In our true state, we are connected to Lord through service. The Supreme Lord is Purusha, Supreme Enjoyer. And we living entities are Prakriti, being enjoyed. We are created for His enjoyment. And if we participate in that eternal enjoyment with the Supreme Lord, we become happy. We cannot become happy otherwise. It is not possible to be happy independently, just as no one part of the body can be happy without cooperating with the stomach. Any example? Let me give a quick thought on it. Without having connection with the Supreme Lord, genuine connection, I'm not saying you're pretending to be God conscious. Without having genuine connection, nobody can be happy. Why nobody can be happy? Because even how rich you become, how famous you become, the envy in the heart does not go away. You're always fearful. Wait, what my competitor is doing? Oh my goodness, my competitor has got more followers. Oh, my fellow businessman has got more money than I. He's always living in constant fear, constant anxiety, and what to speak about how many people are envious of him now. The moment you become famous, it's not that you are only envious of others. People become envious of you, because of which you cannot trust anyone. That is how the person lives in a constant anxiety. That is a point you have to note here. However, the one who becomes God conscious, now he sees everyone with an equal vision. Everyone is my brother and sister. Therefore, he has no anxiety. Only anxiety he has, how can I serve them? The only anxiety is how can I serve them? And that is also not an anxiety, because he is serving Lord, and on his behalf he is serving others. If others accept the service, okay. If it doesn't accept, doesn't matter. Because by his endeavors, he is making the Lord happy because he is trying to serve. Therefore, only devotees of the Lord are happy. People are all outside, they're just struggling. That's the point here. Prabhupada said it is not possible. There's no way they can be happy. What happiness that they have is a plastic smile. Have you ever traveled in a flight? The moment you enter a flight, the air hostess, welcome, sir. She's paid for telling you welcome. Okay? उससे पूछे तो घर में कितना कलेश होगा. All right? All right, that's the point here. It is not possible for the living entity to be happy without rendering transcendental loving service unto the Supreme Lord. In the Bhagavad Gita, worship of different demigods or rendering service to them is not approved. So, whom should I serve? That's the next question. Prabhupada says, well, people say, serve him, serve that and that. No, service is only meant for the Supreme Lord. The Devatas to whom we worship, that is also even disapproved in Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says, Kamastasta hitagnyana, everyone, prapadante anya devata tam tam niyamam asaya prakritya rihata swaya. Those whose intelligence has been stoned by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. Here it is plainly said that those who are directed by lust worship the demigods, not the Supreme Lord. When we mention the name Krishna, we do not refer to any sectarian name. Krishna means the highest pleasure. And it is confirmed that the Supreme Lord is a reservoir or storehouse of all pleasure. We are all hankering after pleasure. Anandamaya vyasat. The living entities like the Lord are all full of consciousness and thereafter happiness. The Lord is perpetually happy, and if the living entities associate with the Lord, cooperate with Him and take part in His association, then they also become happy. The Lord descends to this mortal world to show us His pastimes in Vrindavan, which are full of happiness. When Shri Krishna was in Vrindavan, His activities with His cowherd boyfriends, with His damsel friends, means gopis, other inhabitants of Vrindavan, with the cows, were all full of happiness. The total population of Vrindavan knew nothing but Krishna, but Lord Krishna even discouraged his father Nand Maharaj from worshipping the demigod Indra, because he wanted to establish the fact that people need not worship any devata. They need only worship Supreme Lord, because the ultimate goal is to return to his abode. The abode of Shri Krishna is described in 15th chapter, verse number 6. Please repeat. Na tadbhasate suryo na shashankana pavaka yadgatva nivartante tadhama paramama. That supreme abode of mine is not illuminated by the sun or moon nor by fire electricity. Those who reach it never return to this material world. This verse gives a description of that eternal sky. So now there will be discussion about what is the spiritual world. Of course, we have a material conception of the sky and we think of it in relationship to the sun, moon, stars, so on. But in this verse, the last states that in the eternal sky, there is no need for the sun or the moon or electricity or fire of any kind, because the spiritual sky is already illuminated by the Brahma Jyoti, the rays emanating from the Supreme Lord. Therefore, there is a Vedic aphorism. All of you might be aware of it. Asatoma Satgamaya, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. So this is a place of darkness. For example, if there is no darkness in your house, why would you need electricity? Why would you need bulb? You put a bulb because you know that there will be a darkness. Sunset will happen, darkness will happen. If there was no darkness in this material world, why there was a need for sun or moon? If there is a sun and moon, which means inherently this is a place of darkness. Therefore it is said, Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya. Jyotirgamaya, from darkness go to the place of light, which means there is no need of sun and moon. You're getting the implicit meaning? Because it always illuminates. And how it illuminates? The rays emanating from the body of Krishna. That's the point here. All right. We are trying with difficulty to reach the planet, but it is not difficult to understand the abode of the Lord. This abode is referred to as Goloka. Brahma Samhita says, Goloke vanivasati akhilatma bhuta. The Lord resides eternally in his abode Goloka, yet he can be approached from this world, and to this end, Lord comes to manifest his real form, Satchitananda Vigraha. When he manifests this form, there is no need for our imagining what he looks like. To discourage such imaginative speculation, he descends and exhibits himself as he is, as Shyama Sundar. Unfortunately, the less intelligent deride him, which means find faults with him, because he comes as one of us and plays with us as human beings. But because of this, we should not consider the Lord one of us. It is by his omnipotency that he presents himself in his real form before us and displays his pastimes, which are replicas of those pastimes found in his abode. In the effulgent rays of the spiritual sky, there are innumerable planets floating. The Brahmajyoti emanates from the supreme abode, Krishna Loka, and the Anandamaya, Chinmaya planets, which are not material, float in those rays. Is it possible for the planets to float in the sky? Yes or no? Our planet is also floating, na? Same thing. The Lord says, Natadvasate Suryo. One can approach the spiritual sky, is not required to descend again, Yad Gatvana Nivartante. In the material sky, even if you approach the highest planet, what to speak of the moon, we will find the same conditions of life, which is Janma Mrityu, Jara Vyadi. No planet in the material universe is free from these four principles of material existence. So, point is, spiritual world is a place where there is no Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi. No Adhyatmik, Adhibhautik, Adhidevika, Klesha. The living entities are traveling from one planet to another, but it is not that we can go to any planet we like merely by a mechanical arrangement. Can anyone push himself, let's say, into an American border, or let's say to France or something like that? You might try to do that, but there's a lot of possibility you may get shot down by the border police. Yes or no? Or let's say India, Pakistan. So when we cannot cross one physical boundary within this land, and we are thinking we are so smart that we can push ourselves into Mars, Moon, etc., etc. Think about it. I mean, this is a height of foolishness. If we desire to go to other planets, there is a process for going there. This is also mentioned. Yanti deva vrata deva pitrayanti pitrvata. No mechanical arrangement is necessary if you want interplanetary travel. Gita instructs, the moon, sun, higher planets are called Svargaloka. There are three different statuses of planets: higher, middle, and lower planetary system. The Earth belongs to the middle planetary system. Bhagavad Gita informs us how to travel to the higher planetary system with a very simple formula. Yanti deva vrata devan. अगर आपको देवलोक में जाना है, उनके भक्त बन जाओ. पितरों के पास जाना है, उनके भक्त बन जाओ. और भूतों से बहुत प्रेम है, निश्चित रूप से भूतलोक में जन्म लोगे. All right? One need only worship the particular demigod of that particular planet. In that way, go to the moon, the sun, or any of the higher planetary systems. We go until what time? 7:15, right? That's the time. Okay. I'll read one more paragraph. We'll pause after this. The two paragraphs. Yet Bhagavad Gita does not advise us to go to any of the planets in this material world. Because even if you go to Brahmaloka, through by any mechanical process, we will still find material inconveniences on Brahmaloka also, because Brahma also has birth and death. But one who wants to approach the supreme planet, Krishna Loka, within the spiritual sky, will not meet with this material discomforts. Amongst all of the planets in the spiritual sky, there is one supreme planet called Goloka Vrindavan, which is the original planet of all the originals. All of this information is given in Bhagavad Gita, and we are given through its instruction information how to leave the material world and begin a truly blissful life in the spiritual sky. So how many of you would like to book a ticket in Vaikuntha Airlines? Raise your hand. Sure? Are you willing to pay the price? इधर वहीं रहना है? अबे पहले वैकुंठ तो पहुंचो, वो लोग बाद में पहुंचोगे. ठीक है. In the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, the real picture of the material world is given. It is said, what is the real picture of material world? Udvamulam madha shakam ashwadam brahuravyam chandam yasya varnani yasna veda savedavit. So, okay, let's read. Here the material world is described as a tree whose roots are upwards and the branches are below. We have experience of a tree whose roots are upward. If one stands on the bank of a river or any reservoir of water, which means in the reflection, the branches go downward and the roots are upward. Similarly, this material world is a reflection of the spiritual world. The material world is but a shadow of reality. In the shadow, there is no reality of substantiality, but from the shadow, we can understand there are substance and reality. Imagine you see a reflection of a mango in the water, and you jump into the water. What do you get, a mango? You only got frustration. That's the reason. Similarly, we are splashing, we are diving into the material ocean, thinking that we'll find happiness. But because we have an understanding of happiness, it proves happiness lies somewhere else. That's the point here. So we are seeing the reflection of mango. It means mango is somewhere else. But we need to know where to go and get the mango. In the desert, there is no water, but the mirage suggests that there is such a thing as water. In the material world, there is no water, there is no happiness, but the real water of actual happiness is there in the spiritual world. So, how can we attain that spiritual world? Let's make the discussion for tomorrow. We're coming to the conclusion here now. So, today we started from which page? So, we started from 14th page. So, great. We were able to read 4 pages today, effectively. So, our speed increased by 1 page. So, what I'm going to do now, we'll read, but I'll also, while reading, I'll be a little quick. If a paragraph is making one point, I'll just explain it and move forward. Like that, we'll do it. Otherwise, this will become a Nritya Leela, which means Bhagavad Gita will never end only. After Bhagavad Gita, we have to read Bhagavata. We have to read Chaitanya. So much is there, right? Isn't it? So, in today's discussion, we started from page number 14. Vedic knowledge is Apureya, Apurashaya, and like this. And the Vedic knowledge teaches us about the rarity of human form of life. The human form of life is meant for our highest benefit. And what is the highest benefit? Re-establish our relationship with the Lord. Why to do so? Where does the Lord live? Lord is eternal, Jiva is eternal, and his abode is eternal. And there is a process by which we can re-establish our relationship and go back to that eternal land. And that is called as perfection of human form of life. What is the problem with the material world? This is a place of darkness. Therefore, we require electricity and sun and moon. But in spiritual world, there is no need of sun and moon. So that was about the spiritual world. What is Sanatan Dharma? We have eternal relationship with the Lord through Sanatan Dharma. Sanatan means eternal, Dharma means which is constantly there, never changes. Liquidity for water, heat, light and heat for fire. So what is the Dharma of living entities? So Prabhupada was discussing about Sanatan Dharma, non-Sanatan Dharma. Non-Sanatan Dharma has a time when it starts, and that non-Sanatan Dharma is based on faith, which can be changed. Today you are Muslim, tomorrow you are Christian, day after tomorrow you are Hindu. That's not possible. These are external parameters, but our nature is constant, and that is to serve. Sanatana Goswami asked Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that's a conversation, Prabhupada Course, and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, our constitutional position is to serve. And I gave an example of unconsciously how we serve. What is speak of consciously we are serving. So the question comes, whom should we serve? And the service is to be directed to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is how, or what is called as perfection of human form of life. And then the discussion was about going back to Sanatan place, the spiritual world. There is a process to go to spiritual world, just like there's a process to go to another country. So what is the process? Prabhupada says, first thing Prabhupada says, this service should not be directed towards Devatas. Service should be directed only towards the Supreme Lord. And then Prabhupada says, the process given is, if you worship Devatas, you go to Devlok. If you worship Pitras, you go to Pitrulok. Like that. Similarly, if you worship Krishna, you go back to him, spiritual world. And among all spiritual world, there are unlimited spiritual planets. In all the spiritual planet, one planet is the highest, the abode. That is Goloka Vrindavan. And this Bhagavad Gita gives us the knowledge of how to reach that Goloka Vrindavan, to achieve the perfection of human form of life. And that was a discussion. And another discussion was that how Lord appears again and again. He sends his associates to remind us of that spiritual happiness that exists forever in the spiritual world. So Lord comes here just to remind us and take us back, and therefore he performs the Leela. But unfortunate are those who consider Lord's pastimes and Lord's appearance and disappearance to be like human, like ordinary. So that is what is being warned here. So how do we go to that spiritual world is a discussion that we'll read from page number 21 onwards. So that's what we read for today, and we'll continue tomorrow how to actually go to the spiritual world. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki. So I noticed some of you have raised questions, but because of book distribution services, I just didn't got a time. Within a day's time, we'll reply to it. And in case if you have more questions while reading it, please go ahead and feel free to send your questions to that particular web link. Hare Krishna. We conclude it for today. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki. Thank you.